Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of this training. In this session we will see how we can set up an RFC connection. As we see in the RFC connection is set up in the transaction code SM59. So before we start setting up the RFC connection, we need to see what are all the information we need. We need to know which system we are going to log in. We need the user ID and password in the specific system which we are going to log in. As we've seen in the initial sections, we have two systems now. One is ECC and we have another system ECQ. So we are going to log in from the ECC system to the ECQ system. Okay, let's get into the system and start creating an RFC connection. So this is our ECC system. And we have an ECQ system. Before that, let's make a plan from which system we are going to log in to which system. From ECC system, we are going to log into ECQ system. Okay, so the RFC name which we want is ECQ CLNT, that means client 001. This is the RFC name which we are going to create. This is the RFC which we are going to create. So to do that, we need some information from the ECQ system. Okay, what is the server? So how can we find the server? We have this information in our SAP GUI. Let's go here and we will take the server IP address. Yeah, you can either specify the IP address or you can specify the host name, provided the IP address has the name resolution in your network. Okay, 192.168.1.53. This is our IP address, and the instance number which is also required, instance number 00, and the client which we will be logging in is client 001. This is also a fresh system which does not have any clients. Then what we need more, we need a user ID which we will create now, and we also need a password. Okay, let's log into the ECQ system. Now we need a user ID and password. This is the ECQ system, you can see it here. Let's log in. It's a fresh system, so there is no SAP basis user. We don't have this user, so let's log in with the SAP default user, SAP star. Okay, now what we will do, we will create an RFC user. So if you see in SAP, you have different type of users. The user which we have logged in the SAP basis is called dialog user. We need to create RFC users. The transaction code to create user is SU01. Here I will create the user. Let's say RFC underscore maybe ECQ 001. This is my user ID. Okay, this is the user ID which I'm going to create. Okay. It's always better whenever you are creating this kind of special user, keep a good naming convention, so that from the name itself you can identify what is this user is doing. Let's say in a given point in time this user is occupying all the work process in the system. If I go to SM50 and see this user in all the work process, then I know this is the RFC user from EC2 system flying client 001. Okay, it's very easy to identify. So again, depends. You can also name after your application. If you have RFC, then you know it's an RFC user. Okay, then let me say create. Okay, now let's give a name, RFC connection from ECC. So since we are calling from ECC to EC2, we need a user ID in EC2. Okay, so we are calling from ECC. Let's go to logon data. Here if you can see the user type, we have different user type: dialog, system, communication, reference and service. For RFC we will use communication data. Okay, then we need to give a password. So let's select a password. Our password is RFC 001 demo. In small. This is our password. Let me copy this and put it here. You can specify the group, and from date to date we will skip all these things. Now I will simply go to roles or profiles, and assign the profile SAP all. That means it has all authorization. Okay, and save these changes. Now we have saved our user. Okay, now we got all the information what we required. Now let's go to ECC system. So we are in our ECC system. You go to transaction code SM59, and we will be creating a ABAP connection because we are going to call another ABAP systems. Okay, so ABAP connection is connection type is 3. You can see connection type 3. If it is a HTTP system, then we need to specify G. Internet connection I. TCP/IP connection is T. Okay, we need to remember this, otherwise also we can still find out. Let's see, create. Our RFC name, this is the RFC name. Okay, ECQCLNT01. It's RFC name. Then we need to select the RFC connection type. We can specify 3 here, otherwise just select and say 3, say enter. Then we need to specify documentation. It's always better. This is a test RFC connection to ECQ, otherwise it will give you a warning message to maintain documentation. Now we come to the technical setting where we need to specify the host name. So in the host name you can directly specify the IP address, or you can specify the target host name also. Okay, actually the host name for this server is ECC. If you go to the system, then we can see this one. You can see ECC QA01. You can specify that ECC QA01. It automatically takes the IP address here for the target system, and the system number, the instance number is 00. Then you go to Logon and Security. Here you can specify what is the language you want to log in. Let's say EN English, otherwise you can leave it blank. Same like we log into our SAP GUI. Yeah? But when you create a communication user, you cannot log in using SAP GUI. This only you can use it for remote function call. That means only for RFC functions. Okay, now client is 001 and the user is, this is our user, ECQ underscore RFC underscore ECQ underscore 001. I'll put my user here. User can be used for remote logon in the target system. Okay. Now I need to specify the password. So once we put the password, then you save this RFC. Now the RFC destination is created. So now we created the RFC destinations. How do we test the RFC destination is working or not? For that we have an option to test this connection. Okay, let's say test connection. We have an error. It says logon cancelled, error detail, logon not possible, error in license check. That is because the license which is used for SAP for this ECC and ECQ is same. So that's because of the reason we cannot use that system for time being. So what we do is we will use this SAP standard user, maybe SAPstar. Yeah, you don't need to do this one. This is since because we are sharing the same license key for both the systems, so we have a technical problem here. This will not be a case in your side, it will be a different case. So here we just, for demo purpose, I'm changing it back to SAPstar. Okay, now if we say test connections, you can see the connection is tested. Okay, this is the first method of testing the connections. The test connection, what it will do, it will only test the connection. It will only check this IP address whether you can log into the system. Okay, then we have one more test to see whether this particular user can successfully log into the system. Right now what we are doing is only checking this specific technical setting whether it is correct or not. Okay, so if we go here, go to utility, test, that so far what we have seen is connection test, this one. Next one what we can see is authorization test. In the authorization test it will execute some test, small test inside the remote system. So if you select here, so you can see the authorization test is passed. No, if you go here, in this test it will check the authorization of this user whether it can log into the remote system. This authorization test, and we have something called Unicode test. Here also it's available. Unicode says if you use Unicode test, then it says the target system is Unicode character size 2. So it will tell you whether the target system is Unicode enabled or not. What is the character set for this Unicode? That is Unicode test. You can also see something called remote logon. So if you want to log on to the system, but if you use communication user, the one which we have created before, you cannot do remote logon. In case if you want to log on from the remote system to another system as a dialog user, then you can specify a dialog user here and say remote logon. Then it will automatically log into ECQ. You can see here. Okay, let me close this. Where we have the ECQ system here. Let me close this as well. log off. So I totally logged off from the EC2 system. If we see our SAP system, we have only ECC. If I say remote log on, it will from ECC you can log on to EC2 system and you can work here. Right now if you go here, we have two, ECC and EC2. The user which I use to log on now is this AppStar. Okay, so like this you can log on using remote log on. You can log on to a different SAP system. This can come quite handy if sometime you couldn't log on from your desktop to that SAP system specifically, then you can use this. Now you may think, what is the scenario? If I can log into ECC, I also should be able to log on to EC2. Why should I do a remote login? So let's say in a complex network scenario, let's say right now my ECC and EC2 is in a different network, whereas there is a firewall in the middle. I can only log into ECC, only the firewall is enabled to the ECC system, ECC demo host. The ECC QA01 is not enabled on the firewall, so I cannot log in. So what we can do is we can log into ECC, make a remote log on to the EC2, because in the same network it will log in there. Okay, so the firewall between ECC and ECC QA01 is enabled. Let's assume it's in the same network. Then there is no firewall in the middle. Then you can log on like that. This is one scenario. But sometime what happens is, let's say you created the RFC connection, you created the communication user, you tried to log in, but still there is something wrong with the connections. You don't know how to diagnose it. You wanted to check whether this system is properly logging on or not. So in that case, what we can do is you change the user to dialog user and make a remote log on. Then it will log into the system. Then you know it's perfectly logging into the system. Then you know everything is perfect. Okay, that also it's quite easy to test in case of diagnosing is required, something like this. Yeah, this is quite useful. So we've seen connection test and authorization test and Unicode test. Now I save this. Okay, right now I have an RFC connection. Maybe we can also see how to call a function module. Maybe we will use the same function module. Let's go to the function module which we have seen to call the USR02. We used one function module. Okay, let's say we use SC37. Or we can use this function module as well. Let's say SAP basis. Execute. Now we are showing in the ECC system. Okay. Now I go back. I'll put the RFC target here, whereas we know the SAP basis user is not available in EC2 system. Okay. So execute. It say user does not exist. You can see the error. Okay. So let me create one user in the remote system. So we already created one user. For example, this is the user we created, but this user is not available in the ECC system. So this user is not available in the ECC system. Let's say go to our ECC. We are right now in the ECC system. Go to /NSU01. So you can see this user is not there. Okay. So if I go to the SE37, we execute the function module BAPI user display, and we specify the user ID, we specify the RFC. So this particular function module which execute should be executed in the target system, and we need to get this information about this user RFC underscore ECC underscore 001. Here you can find it. See, it's quite simple. This is now executing from the remote system. Okay, let me go back and change this user. Maybe let's go to ECC system. Sorry, ECQ system. That's the SU01 ECC to change and say here I'll say testing RFC function module call. Okay, I changed in the ECQ system. Let me go back to ECC system, go back and execute again. Oops. I go back, go to execute. Let me put the RFC destination and I'll specify the user ID and execute. Now you can see testing RFC function module call. Oops. Okay. So you can also see basically when you call this function module, it will go to the ECQ system to check. Let's say I will log out from here. ECQ is totally logged out. So if I execute now we have only ECC system which is logged into our SAP using SAP GUI. Say execute. Now it's displaying. Now you can see the system name is changed to ECQ. Okay. Now I say close, then system name will revert back to ECC. Okay, now it's revert back to ECC. So it's logged in and shown you the pop-up. Since it's a pop-up message, that's the reason you got that system here. Otherwise you don't get it. It's just for your information I shown you. Generally you don't get this one in terms of it's not in a dialog mode. So generally you don't execute function module in dialog mode. In a very rare cases you do this. This is just to demonstrate you. It's quite easy to demonstrate. That's the reason we took this as function module. Okay, this is about how we can create RFC destination. Also we have seen all this testing. Okay, with this we are coming to the end of the session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.